Hey folks, so it is September 11th today, and of course, everybody I'm sure has a story about where they were when the planes hit the Twin Towers and such. Um, I have my own story, had my own personal disaster happen, um, and I'm going to tell you about it. Not looking for sympathy or anything, just relaying basically what happened. And it's just part of my life and kind of has made me who I am. Um, Basically, created my mantra, which I'll reveal in the later part of the video. Um, anyway, my fiance at the time and I were planning to buy a warehouse building in the Exchange District in Winnipeg. The building was $180,000. It was a 3 or 4 story warehouse building. And we knew the property values were going to rise in that area. It was becoming kind of gentrified and changing, and property values were going up. But this building was available for $180,000. So we figured that was affordable, and we just needed to get the money somehow. Um, couldn't really get loans from the bank or anything like that, but at the time, I had closed my store. I was sharing space with a friend. She sold her business, and well, it didn't work out with the new owner. So basically, I closed the store and ended up loading everything into a semi-trailer into storage. So what I felt I could do was have an auction and also put in part of my advertising collection at the time. And I had some beautiful antique or vintage signs, push bars, clocks, all sorts of material. And I figured between the inventory from the store and 3/4 of my advertising collection, we could raise probably $200,000, $250,000. So that would give us the money to put into this building, or at least purchase it and then gradually work on it. And like I said, property values were rising and such, and I figured I could also sell my home and also end up building a residence in the top floor of this particular building, and then rent out the middle floor and have a shop on the main floor and rent out the basement. So there was a plan in place. So we had, like I said, this semi-trailer full of merchandise and 3/4 of my advertising collection, and basically ended up jamming it all into a 50-foot semi-trailer, front to back, bottom to top, right to the roof. There was about this much space in the roof, from the roof, because it was just full of smalls mainly. Tons of smalls, my showcases. I had a showcase from the 1880s, early maybe 1890 in there, as well as a lot of other material, vintage pieces, antiques, collectibles, etc. All from my store, which I had a couple thousand square feet of space, jam full of some neat stuff. So we had planned to hold an auction in Didsbury, Alberta. Now, Didsbury is halfway between Calgary and Edmonton. I chose an auctioneer. I had gotten a referral from a fellow in Alberta who recommended this particular auctioneer. Unfortunately, I guess I didn't ask the right people necessarily about this auctioneer, but the auctioneer claimed to know what he was talking about. Or claimed to know antiques well and advertising well and all of this. And also said, well, that he would, do the advertising, etc., etc., all the things the auctioneer is supposed to do. So, anyway, we loaded up the semi-trailer. I hired a fellow dealer and friend to drive because he had his semi-driver's license, his class 1. So he drove, and we left early. Left I think on Tuesday, The auction was to be Saturday and Sunday, so setting up was Thursday, Friday, and the auctioneer also said he'd provide 15 people to help set up. So that's fine. We ended up driving through, and the semi we rented turned out the AM radio didn't work with the darn. Couldn't get AM or FM. The CB would only work if the other driver was right beside you or in very, very close proximity. So we were kind of isolated. And of course, this is before smartphones, iPhones, that sort of thing. So it did have a cell phone, I think, at the time, but that was about the only access to the outside world we had. So anyway, we're driving through, going to Didsbury, trying to get there early. The auctioneer said he'd get us in early as well, so we could get in Wednesday or early Thursday. But anyway, so we're driving through, and my fiance at the time called, and we had been driving, like I said, all through the night to get to the auction or the location. So, and this was to be a 2-day auction as well. I was a little concerned because I hadn't seen much advertising. Although I was in Manitoba, so obviously I wouldn't see a lot necessarily. The advertising was probably over all of Alberta, you would think. So we ended up getting this call, and my fiance had said, "Well, had you heard?" And we were like, "No, we haven't heard anything. We're pretty isolated because of this issue with the radio and the CB." So she said, "Well, a plane has hit one of the Twin Towers in New York." So we were like, "Oh, okay, an aeronautical accident." So that's kind of strange, but probably won't really affect us. It's unfortunate, it's sad, it's kind of a disaster in New York, but shouldn't really affect this auction. So we kept on going. My friend, and fellow dealer, turned to me and had said, "Well, do you want to turn around?" And I'm like, "Well, no, not really. Like we've committed to this auction. So, what can we do, really?" I'd already put out expenses, obviously, to rent the truck, rent the trailer, and all these other expenses. So we needed to do this auction. So we arrived on Wednesday and called the auctioneer, and the auctioneer came, and we started pulling some stuff out of the trailer just to show what kind of stuff we had. And then he said, and I'd provided him a long list of inventory that was for sale or that was going to go up for auction. And he said, "Oh, I guess I should make some phone calls." And this was Wednesday, just before the auction to happen Saturday and Sunday. Probably it should have been a 3-day auction, but it was a 2-day auction. So anyway, we were like, okay, why is he saying this? So anyway, we're like, okay, well, that's concerning. So anyway, Thursday rolls around. It was Thursday or Friday, I think we got in. Anyway, to set up. So we're setting up. Well, he provided 2 other people, himself and I think there was maybe 3 people he provided. He didn't provide 15, he provided 3. Or maybe 4. And they weren't there all the time. So it was me, the fellow dealer, and such that were dealing with this. So we did get into the community hall later than planned. The auctioneer, like I said, didn't get us in early, and there were some issues with the attitude of the person in charge, because everybody else was on holiday or something to that effect, I think it was. But anyway, whatever reason, we weren't able to get in early as we were told. So we could have left a day later, which probably would have prevented us from going at all. So anyway, we started setting up, unloading and setting up. And like I said, we had three or four people rather than the 15 we were told we were going to have. And anyway, we were setting up and got set up for just kind of in the nick of time, late Friday, and went back to the hotel. And then Saturday, when the auction was, I attended the first little bit of the auction, but the auctioneer quickly proved himself as not knowing what he was talking about in 99% of the cases of every item. He was selling Medalta pottery just as old vase, old signs, that sort of thing, not really knowing what he was handling. When they were putting lots together, they were putting extremely valuable items in box lots rather than separating them, so I had to go around and pull out certain things. There was a few things I just pulled, period, just not worth risking. But there was still lots of great stuff. Like I said, 3/4 of my advertising collection went into that sale. So anyway, so the sale was not going well initially, and the auctioneer eventually told me to leave because he felt I was making the crowd nervous for whatever reason. Yeah, I was pacing, of course, at the back and not really too happy with what was happening. So I went back to the hotel and just languished there for 2 days and watching the TV and what was going on. Anyway, in the end, the auction netted us a grand total, and this is final total. And like I said, we were expecting close to $250,000 from this auction due to the quality of stuff and the quantity of stuff. Stuff was selling for pennies on the dollar. It turned out pieces that at the time were worth $150, $200, $300, $400 were selling for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. There was one particular case where he refused to sell an item until a guy left. A guy called me on, I think, the following Tuesday to let me know that the auctioneer basically wouldn't put up the item he was interested in until after he left. And of course the item sold for grossly less than what this fellow was willing to pay. And yeah, it was not a good situation. Anyway, so yeah, back to what we netted. We ended up with $28,000 total. That was before expenses came off. The auctioneer took, I think it was 35% or so, and also took advertising costs, which I don't know where he advertised, but he took a chunk. We ended up with $17,000 in our pocket, and that was before taking off expenses of the semi-truck, hotel, food, whatever, to get there, fuel, etc. So we ended up with, like I said, $17,000, gave away stuff, essentially. There was things selling, like I said, stacks of things for $1 and that sort of thing. So it was devastating for us. Yeah, definitely devastating. Affected my life for a few years after that, financially especially, because I wasn't able to pay debts that I had planned to pay as well, to completely get out of debt and buy this property. The $17,000 didn't cover, after expenses and such, it barely covered a portion of debt and such. We had some credit card debt, and like I said, I had a house, so I had a mortgage and such as well that I needed to, that I was hoping to cover. And yeah, it was bad. It was very bad. So yeah, it was quite devastating. But yeah, from that point on, um, I did. It was a learning experience to the point that following events over the years paled in comparison, or basically not necessarily paled in comparison. There was an event in my life that which was pretty bad. Just prior, actually, about 5 years ago, 6 years ago. But this particular event with 9/11 prepared me for dealing with such such drama and disasters. So I've survived events that maybe would have broken other people. So I guess it's a good thing in a way, if you could call it good. If you could look at it that way, it could have been a good thing in a way. Like I said, it prepared me for dealing with other events in life, and allowed me to cope and survive those events where others may not have been able to cope. Anyway, so that's the story, guys. So yeah, that's just one of the dramas in life that happens. Like I said, I'm not looking for sympathy or anything, just relaying what happened. And these things happen, stuff beyond your control. You're driving down a road in life, you've got plans, you figure your destination is X, but you get diverted down a different road by these things that are beyond your control. Who knew that planes hitting the Twin Towers would turn into terrorist attacks, or be classified as a terrorist attack and affect the whole world? You just never know. So, and not to minimize other people's losses, there was people that lost far more than I did, far more. But that was my own little personal disaster in life for 9/11. So yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Do appreciate it. Please like and subscribe, and leave a comment below. Let me know what happened to you in 9/11. Did you have a personal disaster? How it affected you? I know myself, when I was because I was selling on eBay, there was some customers that literally disappeared from New York, and I'm sure and thinking they were probably in the Twin Towers at the time, because they just disappeared off the face of the earth. Their emails went dead, their contact ceased and such. So I'm sure that fortunately they perished in the towers or on the streets, one or the other. So anyway, again, thanks for watching, guys. Do appreciate it. Take care.